One by one, employees from the tourism sector show up here at the National Insurance Board seeking financial assistance.
Wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, except that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, then you'd better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone, for the times they are a-changing. Come writers and critics who prophesize with your pen, and keep your eyes wide, the chance won't come again. And don't speak too soon, for the wheel's still in spin. There's no telling who that it's naming, for the loser now will be later to win, for the times they are a-changing.
Welcome to The New Economy, What's Next? My guest today is Brian Jones, Director of Wealth Solutions at Leno, and we're going to be talking about this emerging technology called blockchain and all of its applications, as well as some really great opportunities for the average person in blockchain. So stay tuned. With the right business technology tools, a small company can compete with a Fortune 500. Imagine making your current workforce 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times more productive. New technology can be scary. It disrupts processes and industries and changes them in entirely new ways. But with change and disruption comes increased efficiencies of many times. As a business or organization, that means competing with the big boys. A better way of looking at technology is like an engineer does, not as something to be feared, but as a tool to be used. Engineers look at technology in four main ways. There is development, implementation, practical use, and maintenance. Each requires a different type of skill and a different kind of technical background. For most businesses, when you are thinking about accessing these productivity tools, you should concentrate on a solution, and implementation, and practical use and maintenance of that solution. Experts in these fields have specialized knowledge that is expensive to learn in terms of money, time, and years of licks from experience. Experience matters, as technology mistakes are really expensive. When we interview engineers and technologists, keep in mind what practical problem it is that they are trying to find a solution for. As entrepreneurs, business leaders, and policymakers, understand that the tool is only as good as the craftsman. Welcome to the show, Brian. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you, Diasi. Glad to be here.
Good. Why don't we jump right in? What is this whole thing, this blockchain thing?
Well, blockchain is the underlying technology that undergirds Bitcoin. I mean, by now I think most people would have heard about Bitcoin. Some may or may not know exactly what it is, but blockchain is that underlying technology, which allows for a database to be fully encrypted. In the sense where it can actually become a public database, but it would be very difficult, if not impossible, to alter or remove that information unless the proper protocols are followed, right? So it's allowing for the exchange of information and data in a trustless environment, and also in a borderless environment, because it's native to the internet, right? So it's a technology that it's made up of a distributed network of computers that are all over the world and not in any one particular jurisdiction.
Awesome. And what are, what is the, I mean, we all hear of this cryptocurrencies and the trading aspect, but that's just the scratching the surface of the potential applications for technology like this, correct?
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
So I mean, clearly the first iteration of the blockchain technology was Bitcoin, right, which is a cryptocurrency. But in looking at that underlying technology and all of the benefits that it offers to secure an actual global currency. Those same features can be leveraged to actually to bring integrity to other markets.
Yeah,
right?
because it's the best analogy for my viewers at home, because this is kind of a technical discussion. I don't want to get lost in the technical part. I'm an engineer. Brian should have been an engineer, because we could spend hours and hours getting into the technical nitty-gritty and enjoy it, and we don't want to lose you guys. So the best analogy that I've heard is a train analogy for blockchain. So you could think of, everybody can kind of imagine a train. The tracks are the internet. The blockchain itself is like a train where every time you want to add a new bit of information, you plug a cart onto the back of the train, so that as the train gets longer and longer, it has a history of the blocks. And then you could think of these coins, like Ethereum or Bitcoin, as kind of the passengers in the train. And then you can think of applications as tokens on top of that stuff. So it's kind of multi-layered, and I don't want you to get confused, because ultimately at the end of the day, the tokens, when we start talking about tokens, we mean applications, and there's tons and tons of applications. So
that was actually a very, very clear analogy. There
yeah. So go on. You were talking about some of the potential applications for this technology.
Right. So if we look at the concept of tokenization, right? This is where you would actually create a digital representation of a real world asset. Okay. It could be a representation of actual, like a digital representation of fiat currency, of actual currency. So those are where stable coins.
Yep.
You can have a digital representation of a very unique asset, like a piece of art, right?
That's those non-fungible tokens.
Absolutely.
Or you people at home, you could think of Pokemon cards. They're like Pokemon cards. They have value. The card has value, but it represents something.
That's correct. And on top of that, you can actually put real assets into these tokens as well, and you can have fractional ownership stakes in real estate. Let's think of assets that everybody wants, but they're either hard to get, hard to move, or hard to store. We call these lumpy assets, right? So even gold as a commodity, you want gold bars, right? As a hedge for the economy, for inflation, etc. It's much easier to get a digital representation of that than the real thing.
And what the technology is being used for is it's an efficient way of dematerializing assets. So what that means is just, like he said, putting them into a digital representation. The physical asset is there. You have rights to the physical asset, but instead of anyone who deals in securities laws would understand, instead of issuing paper certificates, you would issue tokens, and those tokens would represent the underlying physical asset.
Right, and the tokens are really just data that's stored in a digital wallet, right? You have digital wallets that's web-based on your computer, or you have a mobile wallet, which I think some people might actually begin to get some familiarity with because of the incoming sand dollar initiative that we have.
Yep. And speaking of the sand dollar, what's the difference between the sand dollar and some of these other cryptocurrencies?
Right. Okay. So the sand dollar is a digital Bahamian dollar. Okay. It is not a representation of a Bahamian dollar. It is a digital Bahamian dollar, right? And you don't necessarily need to have a blockchain behind the central bank digital currency, because it's centrally controlled. It is privately controlled by the central bank. They handle the minting, the issuance, burning of the tokens as needed, etc. So that is different. It's a different type of technology. However, the concept clearly was derived from blockchain and the cryptocurrency space. Whereas now, in contrast to central bank digital currencies, a cryptocurrency is one that is totally decentralized. What does that mean? It means that there is no central authority that's actually controlling the issuance or any other metrics relating to that cryptocurrency. So if you look at Bitcoin, there's a community of nodes that basically run this blockchain collectively. And if any one of these nodes were to fall off, that would not affect the integrity of the network.
Yeah, for once again, I keep stopping you because I don't want I would like the average person to understand what's so special about this space. Why are all these really smart people really excited about this technology? Well, one of the reasons is because of that decentralized nature of it. Your level of transparency goes up, and if anyone knows anything about business and transactions, they move towards regulation and transparency. So once you create this environment, it's the blockchain and all of these different cryptocurrencies and tokens create an environment that should increase the speed of doing business tremendously, to beyond something that exists currently in the world. So that's why you see all this hype around it. That's why you see people are very, very excited. A lot of, like I said, really smart people are dedicating a lot of time to it, because who can figure this out is going to,
Yeah, I think there's another
help the world
important point
and
there
make a lot
too.
of money too. So
Absolutely. I think there's some other.
we'll be right back after a short message from our sponsor. At ArrowACX, we understand that for businesses to grow, they need capital to hire staff, buy equipment, and fuel innovative ideas. We support this process by using technology, years of business acumen, and a world-class team to get business the investment they need to get to the next level. If you are a business owner and need between $100,000 and $3 million, contact us today. We will schedule a meeting over the phone or video chat. Get on the path to your dreams. ArrowACX. Dream bigger.
Documents are part of every essential business process. That's why it is important that they keep moving forward. Documents can be forwarded to the wrong person, left behind on someone's desk, or in the worst-case scenario, they're completely forgotten. So it can take an eternity for an invoice to be approved, for example. This causes aggravation and costs time and money. DocuWare takes your documents straight to the finish line electronically, without detours. All documents are always exactly where they are needed. Employees are immediately notified if they have to process a document. And what previously took an eternity is now almost incidental.
So yeah, this past year has been crazy.
The UK has left the European Union.
The outbreak is very high risk.
Emergency order.
There are fears that the Dow will drop.
The job loss numbers staggering.
Some retail traders are cashing in.
And the role that it's been on, you've got a number of factors here.
Join me and the over 5,000 viewers on The New Economy. There I interview innovators, technologists, financiers, regulators, and business people on what's next in the new economy. Season 2. Join me and my guests every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. on our TV. The New Economy. What's next? A lot of, like I said, really smart people are dedicating a lot of time to it, because who can figure this out is going to,
Yeah, I think there's another
help the world
important point
and
there
make a lot of
too.
money too. So
absolutely, I think there's some other interesting drivers for why people are the interest in these technologies is peaking right now too. I think it's the overall global macroeconomic environment, the instability that we're seeing, the escalating costs of doing business, as well as the need to be able to operate in a fully digital virtual environment. All of these are main drivers for this technology. So if we look at the first scenario, right, from an investment standpoint, um, the fact that crypto assets, they can be used to access almost any other asset class because of that, because they are just simply a digital representation of those assets. What it can do, to your point of speeding up transactions,
yeah,
we can see much quicker, less costly, and broader access to traditional assets through these digital assets.
yeah, and when he means traditional assets, he means things like land, securities, so that's shares in companies, stocks, bonds, art. People forget art, luxury goods, and then even you can get into the interesting uses with, like I say, the non-fungible tokens, which are kind of like Pokemon cards, which a certain generation used to hate. That our generation would spend all of their money on Pokemon cards because they saw no value in it. But you can get much more abstract from there. But remember, anytime he says assets, he means assets in a traditional, physical, tangible sense that's difficult to move. And why that's important? Why that's important is because for business to thrive, business needs the speed of transactions to increase.
One other key point there too is that this fractional ownership allows for a pooling effect, right? So you can have a small, you could have a large group of people come together with small amounts, pool them together in a much more efficient way, and then use that pooled capital to do something major. So let me give a very simple, practical example. Building an apartment building, right? We know that we have the need to diversify the home ownership structure in the Bahamas, right? To make quality housing more affordable. So let's just say a group of individuals were to put together a project that would crowdfund an apartment building, and it would be pre-funded. The project could potentially be debt free. And you could then have a mechanism by which the token holders actually qualify to purchase apartments in that building.
Yep.
Right. So
yep.
Could be,
I mean, you're talking right up my alley of what the kinds of technologies we're looking and applications we're looking at it, because it's important. It's important. It's only through. I mean, God bless you if you have the means to do these things on your own, but for the rest of us, we have to work together to acquire some of these things. And technology like this really helps with that. Now, Brian, why don't you talk a little bit? I know we've been talking about the technology and the opportunities. How did you get involved in this? This is,
Well, I mean, I've been in the investment funds industry, in private banking and trust work and so on, but I've mainly focused my career on investment funds, and we've touched so many different alternative asset classes. It has piqued my interest to continue learning in that space. And when I came across Bitcoin and digital assets, in fact, a client wanted to set up a Bitcoin fund way back in, I think it was 2014.
Okay.
So that's what really piqued my interest, and it was really a lot of self-study since then, because when I first got into the space, there was no resources, there was no books you can read about this technology. It was a bunch of white papers, raw information, and YouTube videos, right? But and a community, right? You learn from people in the community. So I managed to integrate myself into the kind of the crypto community globally, and help build that community here locally. And the knowledge right now is so it's developed to the point where you can actually I just did a certification in blockchain last week, so there is a number of formal ways you can get into it. But one of the things that really drove me into it as well was my Kaya designation. So you may know I'm a chartered alternative investment analyst.
Mm-hmm.
So it's mainly from the investment standpoint, the wealth generation standpoint that I got interested.
Mm-hmm.
But when I realized the evolutionary potential that the technology had, I decided to even pursue it further and try to see how we can start creating opportunities here in the Bahamas. And so that's when we started the FinTech working group at the Bahamas Financial Services Board. I'm working along with the Digital Transformation Committee at the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce. So ultimately, we're looking to make sure that this knowledge is shared, developed, and we create job opportunities in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
And
speaking of opportunities, what type of opportunities are there's from a personal level? Let's start with what I'm a Joe Blow. I'm watching the show, and what can I do to get involved with this space?
The fact of the matter is this blockchain digital asset space has been one of the largest talent grabs that we've seen in recent history. We've seen that some of the best talent in the technical space is actually gravitating towards it because of the future opportunities that we know are going to be coming, right? So if you look at the financial services sector, for example, it's pretty straightforward to see some of the opportunities in the fintech space, right? Of providing services to these digital assets like wallets. You can actually provide other types of custody services outside of the traditional type of bank arrangement. There's the need for market access, so brokerage services, trading. And we talked about tokenization. I mean, how do you create these digital tokens? There's an issuance process, right? So there's an opportunity for firms to be created that actually would be specialized in token issuance. How do these tokens actually behave? They behave according to certain protocols, and it's all enshrined in code, right? So learning programming and developing. There's a huge shortage. I understand that there's about 10 jobs out there for every one blockchain developer that's out there, right?
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity, and it's work you could do from home.
Absolutely, it is, and the thing is too is like whereby so many people want to learn about it. You know, if you become an expert in this space, you can actually make money.
And may I say for the people at home that may be scared about learning something like you need some college degree. Some of the best coders on this planet are not formally educated. So
absolutely,
so
and I'd say it's one last huge opportunity in the space is everything's going online. One of the biggest threats is cybersecurity, hackers, etc. Right? So you're going to need to have professionals who know how to protect data. Right? Data is the new oil.
Yep.
Right. So you need to give it the level of value that it really has today. A lot of people don't respect the value of their own data. They put everything online, and then it comes back to haunt them later. So in the financial realm, where confidentiality is actually part and parcel of the actual legal requirements of providing the service, firms have to ensure that they can maintain the integrity of the data and keep it private.
Yeah.
So having data protection officers that focus specifically on that function, I think that can be the next compliance officer of the future, because with
the GDPR,
that was one of the biggest
which is the General Data Protection regulations. It's the EU mandate. So don't be surprised if you heard it here. Not first, but you heard it here in a year or two when all of a sudden they're talking about blacklisting us because our firms don't have GDPR regulated people. So that is coming down the pipeline. So anyone who manages and touches data, especially if you have clients in Europe, you are going to have data protection officers. So that's coming.
And the next thing too is that the Financial Action Task Force, they're actually bringing forth legislation, regarding the travel rule, these guidelines for member firms or jurisdictions to implement what they call the travel rule, which means that if you want to send crypto assets, right, from one jurisdiction to the next or from one financial institution to the next, you have to follow the same protocols that are followed by traditional financial institutions today. Right, you have to have KYC not only on the person making the payment.
Know your customer rules, so that's all of the passport, banking information, stuff like that.
Right, and in the digital asset space, that doesn't really exist at the moment because it's lacking that level of regulation. But it's going to need to raise its standard to comply with the status quo, and this is where some opportunities lie.
Yeah, and you guys remember that this is a new space, which means that no one truly is an expert in this space yet, which is a great opportunity if you're thinking, if you're sitting at home or you're thinking about a mid or early career shift into something new that is going to be growing, because the applications are endless. Because anything that can be that is legitimate. I'm looking at a comic book over there on my shelf. Those at some point will probably be digitized as non-fungible tokens because they themselves have inherent value, and then there'll be some market of trading them. And so you can literally take anything that you look around in your room that has value can be digitized at some point, and there's opportunity there for the trading and the all kinds of applications. So
absolutely, and to that point, I'd say the environment, I think, is also evolving to make it much more conducive to do this kind of business, right? To do tokenization and so on. So, for example, we have the Securities Commission of the Bahamas. They've been promoting and developing
very progressive.
The digital asset, yes, and the Registered Exchanges Bill, the DARE bill, right, which we expect to see pass into Parliament, into legislation within the next month or two, and that would really provide that clear framework that's missing for firms to really operate in this space in a very transparent manner locally. And that would actually put the Bahamas as a forerunner against a lot of the other jurisdictions out there. Similarly to our position with the sand dollar.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of there's a lot of great opportunity coming in this space. There's some underlying infrastructure issues that once they're solved will make it much easier for people to participate. But there are people that are working on it locally and abroad, and things are going to be cool. There's some really cool business use cases for blockchain, such as that have nothing to do with currency or trading as well. So why don't we got a couple more minutes. Let's talk about what a decentralized autonomous organization is.
Sure. Well, it's a concept that's certainly evolving. I guess for short, it's called a DAO, the DAO, Decentralized Autonomous Organization. But ultimately, it's a way or a framework for a company to actually exist in a virtual environment.
Yeah.
So all of the features you would normally see with a company, where you have a board of directors that carries out that governance function. You have shareholders who are members, and they're generally entitled to vote on certain matters. And ultimately, the company is really a collective organization where a group comes together to achieve a common goal, right? So here it is. Now you have the opportunity to create this in a digitally native environment, right? If you were to incorporate a company today, is a ream of paper you have to produce and file and get stamped and pay and with check and so on and so forth. Whereas with the open source technology that is blockchain, anyone can actually summon a DAO, right? That's the term for creating a decentralized autonomous.
Another thing you have to understand with programmers and things like that. We love our
jargon.
Our jargon, and we to summon a DAO. That's.
Yeah, so you create this organization. So it's akin to incorporating a company.
Absolutely.
Right now today, like in the Bahamas, you actually can incorporate a company online, right? So a lot of that paperwork is actually already digitalized, and we're all moving in the right direction there. even though there's some more work to be done in that regard.
There's always work to be done.
It's not natively digital, and that's what I'm getting at, because ultimately all of the decisions made by that board, all of the votes made by those members, they can all be recorded permanently on the blockchain within that DAO, right? And so there's no need to take minutes of that meeting and then have them signed and sealed and stamped and filed.
They just immediately get added on to the train.
Exactly, it's added to the train.
All right, well, thank you for coming on the show. So that was Brian Jones talking to us about blockchain and the future. We'll see you next time.
And nothing seems the same.